Hi, and welcome to Tea Leaves Programming. Today we are gaming like it's 1979. It's been a while. I've been doing all these Haskell videos and making these emulators, and it's time to just play some games. So I'm going to play some Wizardry, the Five Ordeals, a scenario called the Scepter of Neutral. I just started it. I'm still on the first level. It's really interesting. And I'm going to use this as an excuse to talk about Wizardry a little bit, since there seems to be some controversy going on in the world of Wizardry. The game actually has some interesting mechanical changes from typical Wizardry. One of them is that you cannot save inside the dungeon. I'm waiting to see how I feel about this. The reason for this is that the cheating mechanics are deeply tied in to save and autosave. If you save inside the dungeon, then you can soft reset to get back to the save. And in order to increase the challenge, the creator of the scenario does not want people to be able to cheat. So far, I'm only on the first level. There's been quite a lot of easy ways to get back to the entrance of the dungeon and teleport back to the castle. So it hasn't proven to be an issue yet, but I am a little nervous about how this is going to be when I'm 7 or 9 levels down. I want to go do something else and want to quit the game. We'll see how it goes. The reason Wizardry has been on my mind lately is there is controversy in the community once again. And this is a pattern for Wizardry that I think has gone on for a long, long time. As an IP, I mean, it was big at the time in 1980. It was big in Japan in the mid to late 80s, but it never really was a, Superman level breakout where everyone, it was never Final Fantasy. So it was always these smaller companies scrambling after money. Which is nothing wrong with that. That's why people make games. One reason is because it's a living. The rights for Wizardry got bifurcated in a very weird way. The rights to some of the things were held with various American companies, and for other things were held with various Japanese companies. Robert Woodhead, who sometimes watches this channel, hi Robert, thank you for everything. Kind of straddled both worlds of the US and Japan. I believe he lived in Japan for a long time, was deeply involved with manga and anime there. So what we've seen happen over the years is, there'll be a temporary resurgence where someone gets a great idea how to make Wizardry meaningful again. And then that sparks a round of fighting. So we're not yet at the fighting phase, but I am a little concerned. As near as I can tell, what happened was Atari now owns the rights to the American side of the Wizardry properties, and they put out essentially a press release saying, these are our properties, these are our trademarks, and we're going to assert our rights to everything. And this has the Japanese rights holders, which I believe is a company named Drecom, and I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, I apologize. This has people associated with that very concerned. And when I say people associated with that, let me be clear, the only people who are saying things are the fans, right? Drecom has in fact put out a press release. It's clear that the press release doesn't say anything, which is good practice. And it says, we own what we own, and Atari put out a press release saying they own what they own. And it's just nuts to me that for such a small property, and it's a property I love, it's a game I love, get it together, guys. If I were king of Wizardry, what I would be doing is I would be trying to get the two rights owners, Drecom and Atari. If I were one of those rights owners, I would be trying to do a joint venture. I would create a third company whose only purpose in life is to manage the Wizardry IP. You arrange cross-licensing agreements that preserve the status quo for your rights, so you're never going to lose them. But then you've got this company whose only job is to make sure that everyone involved in the joint venture makes as much money as possible. And they're going to do a better job than you, Atari. They're going to do a better job than you, Drecom. A joint venture concerned about the IP. This has been done before with other IPs. It's been done in the tech world. This is how MP4 works, right? All of the big players essentially have ceded their patents, their intellectual property to this third-party organization whose job is to shepherd the rights to the benefit of everyone involved in the joint venture. So That's what I'd like to see happen. I don't think it's going to happen. This is actually something that's very interesting. So if you look over here at my map, you can see I've mapped out most of what's going on. This was a boss battle that absolutely gave me a party wipe. It's one of the first party wipes I've experienced on the first level of a Wizardry game in quite a while. I'm enjoying this scenario. I am worried because there's a lot of places in this scenario where there are dire warnings. And then when you actually go in to whatever room it is that the warning is out, the difficulty level has been kind of inconsistent. I feel like the warnings haven't done a great job of preparing me. In fact, I did this one, there was a warning and I went in, it was an easy battle. Then I did this one and just got the floor utterly wiped with me. So, that's part of it, but a party wipe in Wizardry is always really annoying, as you know, if you've played the game. So we're not going to go in here right now. We're going to go fill in this one square right here. Actually, is that actually? Yeah, good. The cursor's visible. Something special about this. So let's say Ice Phantoms. I think all they mean by come as often as you like is that we can probably continue to just walk out and walk back in kind of a Murphy's Ghost sort of situation. Uh-oh, someone's paralyzed. That's not good. I do have Cure Paralysis, yay. Another change here, you might notice that Cure Paralysis, which in vanilla Wizardry is a single target spell, here affects the entire party. Just some really smart, small changes to the game mechanics here. There's nothing so far truly major. The spell list is tweaked, but not unrecognizable. Another change I noticed is that Heal is still a single target spell and Mega Heal is a multi-target spell. Up here, not to spoil it for you, but I guess I am, there's a kind of Murphy's Ghost situation up here. And here is a great example. There's two training dummies. This one says it's normal, and this one says come at me only if you're ready to die. I'm afraid to fight that guy. I haven't tried. I don't want a party wipe. So that's the question, is how much exploration, how much risk are you willing to take on? I don't know where I come down on this no saving in the dungeon thing. The reality is, for better or for worse, soft resetting is part of the Wizardry experience. And I do think that's a flaw. I think to correct it, what this scenario is doing is very good, but insufficient. This scenario is doing part of it, which is it's giving you a penalty if you try and cheat. The other half of that has got to be reducing the penalty for failure slightly. So when you first come into this world, you've got these rooms up here, which are just tutorial rooms, which explain some of the mechanics to you. This dude tells you that boots are important. Okay. Well, how are boots important? Well, if you're barefoot, then they describe it as the exhaustion of your journey will catch up with you all at once when you rest at an inn. So I was like, a lot of times in these Wizardry scenarios, there will be text like this, and it isn't actually true. It's just flavor text. So I reached out to the author of the scenario on the Steam forums, where he's very active, and said, is this a real mechanic? And he said, yes. So if you're barefoot, then what happens is when you rest at the inn, as you know, when you rest at the inn in Wizardry and go up a level, most of your stats will go up. Sometimes they'll go down. He connected that to whether you're wearing boots. That's great. Like that makes it meaningful beyond just number go down in the database. The other thing that I believe happens is that if you're wearing boots, and this one I'm less sure of, but I think it's true. When I experience my party wipe, typically in vanilla Wizardry, when you have a party wipe, what happens is you're left in the dungeon. And then someone has to go actually into the dungeon and retrieve your body. Just a huge penalty, really, really painful. And in this situation, all of the characters were dragged back to town. They're still dead, I still had to pay money at the temple to resurrect them. I assume there is still a chance that that resurrection could have failed. But just that reduced the difficulty just enough that I didn't flip the table and stop playing, which is what happens in these scenarios when you lose. In many of these scenarios, when you lose your most powerful party. I think that was smart. Anyway, what I was saying was, I believe that whether you are wearing boots affects whether you are dragged back to the temple. I'm not 100% sure of that. That's what it seems to be. All right, let's level up a little bit here. All right, so I've leveled up one level. Let's go actually back to town, and that'll give me an opportunity to talk about some of the other interesting mechanics that have changed in Scepter of Neutral. I should say there are 2 Scepter of Neutral scenarios. This is the first one. So far, I'm enjoying this quite a lot. All right, so here we are back in town. Let's go to the Adventurers Inn. Let's take a look at this. Note that you might notice right there among these first 4 who have been in the dungeon as a group, they all require exactly the same amount of XP to level up. This was a decision that the author made, that all classes should require the same amount of XP. I think this is smart. People are not really playing the prestige classes because they want them to be more boring than the other classes. I think it was a mistake back in 1981 to make these classes take longer to level up. I understand the intention, but it didn't actually help. Let's get to those gloves, and you might notice here, damage level +1. Also with the gloves. Increases your strength, increases your damage level. So again, the creator of the scenario is consistent that having good equipment doesn't just increase your armor class, it makes you a little better at everything. Well, that's most of what I wanted to say about Wizardry, frankly, was you guys need to get your stuff together. Dracom, Atari, you should be collaborating because no one cares about Wizardry, okay? I mean, I do. I like it. I love the game. No one cares. Daphne, Atari, here, I'm talking directly to Atari right now. Dracom's Daphne has done more to revive Wizardry than anything you've done in 10 years. That doesn't mean you should just give them all the money, but it does mean that it's evidence for the statement that allowing carefully more curation of this IP will benefit you. Dracom, same thing to you. If Atari is putting out more Wizardry games, that's going to increase interest in Daphne. It is just like completely obvious to me that y'all need to be working together. Don't fight over the scraps of a 40-year-old IP. Figure out a way to move it forward together in a way that is financially fair to both of you, but also will lead to that IP being more alive and more vibrant in the future. I'm going to continue to play this game without the pressure of being streaming for it. Thanks for joining me on this very lazy Saturday, where we played a little bit of Wizardry, the 5 Ordeals, the scenario, the Scepter of Neutral. Great scenario. I'm really enjoying it. You should check it out. This has been Gaming Like It's 1979. You're watching Tea Leaves Programming. Thanks for watching.